All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Strength Solutions podcast. Today we have a special guest. And if you're looking for us, we're on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review us. Also, we're on YouTube. Please subscribe and like down below. Then, if you're looking for us on the internet, it's ssempowered.com. We have free blogs, free guides. Also, we have programs for their own purchase. Then, if you're looking for us on social, on TikTok, it's strength.solutions.pod. On Facebook, it's Strength Solutions. On Instagram, it's Strength Solutions Empowered. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
All right, so we have two amazing guests here.
Oh my God.
Before we get into the guests, I want Nathaniel to explain how he met them.
Okay.
And how he cried when he got to know them.
Yeah.
And you'll see he's full of tears today.
Yeah, it's already out. I think I can get through it now. But yeah, okay. So I guess starting a little bit beforehand, I was going to school for PT and everything like that. I thought it was like my calling and I was going to do this thing and everything. And so going through school, having to apply to like PT school and stuff like that. I don't think it's a requirement, but I know that it's like people who worked as technicians have like a higher chance of like getting into PT school. So I was like, okay, well, obviously I have to like go do this fucking job and everything. And so I applied to a bunch of places and it sucked. I never got calls back from anyone. It was the worst. It was really, really hard. And then like every job pays you like $7.25. And I was like, bro, I'd rather just fucking work at McDonald's. Like, this is so stupid because I'm going to be doing serious shit and like get paid nothing for it. Anyway, I called where you guys work. And the first time I think I went through it, had like an interview and they were like, oh, we'll call you back. And then like, I never got a call back for like months. And then I think after a while, I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to try again. And I called back the place and I was like, hey, like I applied there like a long time ago and you guys were like all about it. And then like nothing happened. And they were like, we're so sorry. Like, I don't remember any of that happening, blah, blah, whatever. So then I went back in for another interview. I can't even remember it. I don't even remember the interview process or anything or who I talked to or whatever. But then, yeah, I started working there and I'm trying to think about, I worked at one location for a long time and then COVID happened. And I had only worked there for maybe like 3 months, maybe 4 months. And I was like, I'm gonna get fired. Like, yeah. I was like, I'm totally gonna get let go because, like, why not, right? Like, I'm like the new guy. Everybody else has been worked there forever, so like, I knew I was gonna get like furloughed or whatever it is. So they were like, sorry, like, we're gonna have to let you go. And I was like, okay. So I spent most of my time watching movies and drinking Taco Cabana margaritas. It was awesome. I kind of miss COVID a little bit.
Everybody seems to have had a good time except me, and I'm like trying to figure that out.
Dude, it was awesome, man. And then after everything kind of like cleared up and stuff, they like called us back and they offered me the job again. And I was like, yes, I'll do the job again. Went and like did all the vaccination junk and then came back. And I think that before then, I don't remember when I met you, but I remember you were a new doctor. And I was like, who's this guy? Like, I don't know who this guy is or anything.
Acting like you're all like, oh, I've been part of this company for so long. Yeah, bringing in these new people. Who does this guy think he
I'm
is?
a tenured employee. What the fuck is this about? Yeah, and I remember, I don't think that we really talked or anything. And I want to say that you had come up to me at one point. And like, I don't know, it must have been about anime or it must have been about music or something.
It was music. I remember this quite vividly.
Yeah, really?
So yes, I remember this quite vividly. So, by the way, my name is Alberto San Miguel. I just go by Beto. As I said, I'm outpatient orthopedic. So this was at the clinic that I had joined. And when I first met Nathaniel, I had been working at the company, I'd say about a month, and was still trying to introduce myself to everybody. And then at the very end, I saw Nathaniel. He has a very prominent necklace that he wears with various symbols associated
it's like my
with
calling
metal
card,
Yeah, associated with metal music. And so I asked him, and I was like, hey, do you listen to metal? And he's like, yeah, I do. I, kind of dabble. And anytime you ask somebody if they listen to metal, they always give you the kind of shrug off sensation because they don't want you to say like, oh, I listen to Fall Out Boy or something like that, thinking that it's metal.
Yeah, that happens too much.
And so he was like, yeah, I listen to metal. And I went, do you listen to Cattle Decapitation? Yeah. And he was like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
And from that point on, we were just like best friends.
The thing is too, like in metal too, because I know that we're like very much in that culture. It's like, you never want to be like, oh yeah, like I listen to this, blah blah blah, and then everybody's like, what are those? Because there's so many like different things in it.
Yeah, there's so many genres and
yeah.
various, and you also, it's like power levels, right? You have to introduce just the right amount to not scare people away, but not sound like a dumbass.
Right. So like you usually just go like, yeah, and then so that's how I met him, and then I was like, oh shit, he's cool.
Thanks for thinking I was cool. I got that a lot from people. They're like, we didn't think you would last long at the company or all these things, and I'm like, dang, I was over here trying to be nice to everybody and be like friendly, and they're just like, this dude's a freaking poser. So,
fuck this guy. And then so that's when I met you, and then the way that it works there is like you kind of like rotate through doctors that you work with, and I think we had a stint of time where we worked together for a lot of it.
Quite a while.
So we got like close during that and everything. And then Jessie, I remember you came in new too, and by then I had already worked there for a little bit longer, so I can be a little bit.
Me and Nathaniel are already best friends. Sorry.
I was like, who's this loser?
Once again, everybody that comes in, who's this loser?
So I immediately think the worst of you. You know,
start way down.
You gotta earn it. You know, and so and I think that they had me for whatever reason like train you on some stuff. Like they were like, yeah. And I remember like being there with you and being like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, I'm pretty sure you know everything already. And
we sat in the back room and just talked the entire time.
Yeah. So like, they had like me show you like some of the equipment, which I guess is fair, right? Because if you're not like super into like knowing what that clinic is doing, then that's fair. Yeah. But I remember feeling real dumb because I was like, why am I teaching this doctor what the fuck to do at the clinic? Like, I feel like it's just like a douchebag, you know? And so
I know you have your degree, but this is how you actually do this exercise.
Actually. And so, and then we went in the back because we have like these big, like, what are they, like Excel spreadsheets, like of like how to like do exercises and stuff. And they were like, can you just show her all of them, blah, blah. And like, yeah, we didn't fucking do anything. We just like sat there and talked a long time and got to know her and everything. And I was like, oh, okay, she's cool too. Like, I like her a lot. And then for I think I worked with you longer than I worked with Beto. Yeah, like you were like my doctor.
Our team.
Yeah. I know, we were the dream team.
And you said you loved me, and then you left me like immediately. The new thing came in, and you were like,
ah, shiny thing.
It's just how I am, man. You just gotta keep me around, dude. It's tough. I have a wandering eye, you know. And so we worked together for a super, super long time. And just got close to you guys because I mean you're kind of like in the shit there, you know, so you kind of like build that bond of like you're both kind of like, wow, this fucking sucks, you know, and we're just gonna get through it through the day, you know. So yeah, that's how I met you guys, and then we like stayed friends afterwards. And that was really cool because I was super sad when I left, and I was like, I know they're never going to talk to me again. Like,
too.
Yeah. I was like, well, it was cool working with y'all. I guess I'll never see you again. Yeah. But yeah, we just stayed friends, done little things here and there. We'll go to concerts or work out or just go grab.
Eat a shit ton of sushi.
You know? Yeah, that was our most latest adventure, which was awesome. That was a really, really good place. Have you been to like a all-you-can-eat sushi place? Do you like sushi?
Yes.
Okay.
But I have not.
No? Dude, it's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Well, apparently you take them to. I shoot a fucking podcast with you every week.
Because you're old, Edward. His eyes of wonders. That's
always wandering.
I'm looking for the new thing.
He's looking for the new thing. All you can eat sushi.
That's why I put my daughter in that chair yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm trying to replace him.
Dang. Wow, Nathaniel's voice is really high pitched on this podcast now.
They were like, can you invite Edwin? And I was like, no, he's busy.
Edwin's not allowed. He's got stuff going on.
But yeah, so that's how I met you guys, and then I introduced y'all to Edwin after a while because I was working at the same place that he was, and you guys came and worked out or just did whatever and stuff. So yeah, that's sort of the whole spiel about how we met. Yeah. And then so Beto, introduce yourself. Jessie, you want to give us a little introduction about who you are, what you do?
I'm Jessie Nelson. I work with Beto in an outpatient physical therapy setting. We've been working together for 2 to 3 years, almost 3 years now.
Almost 3, yeah.
So yeah, where we met you.
Very cool. And where did you guys go to school?
I went to Texas State.
Okay.
I had a very
sorry.
yeah. Woo. Eat 'em up, cats.
Can you do the
I know, right? Eat 'em up, cats. We had the weirdest hand sign. We're like
let's put it at the real hand sign.
Let's
just say, look, I just want you to know that your
UTSA birds.
Yes.
Hey, look, I'm just gonna say that your program has a pre-PT program. We have an actual PT program. So,
All right.
That's good.
so I went to Texas State. I had a very unique experience because one, my school was in a transition period. We had the campus in San Marcos, and then halfway into the program, we transferred to Round Rock to an entirely new campus.
I forgot there's a Round Rock campus.
And it's super nice.
It's huge.
It's so nice, and so they were moving a lot of the graduate and professional schools up to Round Rock, and so halfway into the program, had to go up to school there, and then at the very end was when COVID hit, and so I was on my clinical rotations, and my clinical rotation got canceled because I was working in a hospital. I showed up, worked for about 45 minutes, and then somebody came down and told me I had to go home. And I was like, oh shit, I like failed my rotation or something like that. You know, because I'm like, they don't just tell you to like go home for no reason. You know, so I was like, oh goddamn. And then they were like, it was on the news the whole time we were there. They're like, no, we're sending every single student within the hospital system home because you're not essential. And I was like, thanks. Yeah. I was like, so that like hurt my ego twice. Because like one, they're like, go home. And then two, they're like, you're not essential.
Fucking chopped liver.
So that was kind of in a nutshell. That was my Texas State experience. That's where I got my doctorate.
See, that
of
would never happen
therapy.
at UTSA.
Well, it would never happen because there's no PT program.
It can't happen.
It's impossible. It can't happen. And then Jessie, where did you go?
I went to Texas Tech.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Where Patty Mahomes is from. Let's not talk about the Super Bowl though. But before I got my undergrad degree at Tarleton, I don't even know if they have a pre-PT degree or anything there. No. I majored in biology.
Wow.
So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be smart enough to go through all of this. But then, you go through school and you find out it's your passion. And
yeah.
Went to Texas Tech, and it's a pretty cool setup there as well. Like you have 3 different campuses that is all one class. So there's one in Lubbock, one in Amarillo, one in Odessa. And you're basically like through Zoom the entire time, but it's a different program. It's not called Zoom, but the teacher can hear you, you can hear them. They could see you, you could see them. And then if your teacher is on the campus, then even better, right? They're in there. But that's the whole entire 3 years. And then I went through my clinicals. Last one got canceled as well.
Wow.
It was like a sports medicine clinic too. I was ecstatic to go. I went for 1 week. They're like, you're out of here. And I'm like, well, I kind of do like being at home, so okay. I wasn't super bummed about it.
I was chopped liver, and you're like, dope. This is the best thing that happened to me. Like,
Going to Taco Cabana. Very cool, guys. Excellent. Yeah, that's super awesome. And then, okay, so how did you guys get into, I guess, where you're at now? Because I'm pretty sure, did both of y'all work somewhere else beforehand?
I did a lot of jobs beforehand.
Okay, yeah.
So my whole story is a little odd, and I'll try and keep it short. So my bachelor's degree is actually in history.
Okay.
And I got that at UT Austin. So like I'm a Longhorn originally, and then I became a Bobcat later on in life.
Okay, I accept that one.
I can handle that.
So my first job was actually working in a museum archive. And it was a medical museum.
I forgot about that.
Which was a really, really cool experience because you get to sit in a concrete box all day and listen to death metal. And nobody cares because there's nobody else there except a bunch of really, really old paperwork and other dumb shit. So that was a really fun experience, but I wasn't making a lot of money doing that. I had always been exercising and playing sports growing up. And so I started studying for my personal training certification and trying to do that on the side just to see if that would go somewhere. Eventually I got my CSCS, my Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, and started doing personal training at home. I worked in a commercial gym for a little while. And then as I was going through that, I found that I was getting a large population that was already injured, and they were coming to me for how do I keep training despite having this injury?
Right.
And so I kind of went into this bridged setup where I was doing personal training, but I was looking at it from more of a rehabilitative perspective. And so I went, well, if I'm doing this, I might as well be able to put my hands on people to help them out.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to go back to school for physical therapy, and had a lot of work to do, because if you didn't know, not a lot of credits from a history degree transfer over into the healthcare field.
You don't say.
And so I spent several years of getting those credits together, and at the same time I was working at UTSA. I used to be the lead personal trainer there.
Cool.
So this was when I was in my late 20s, and so it was kind of cool because I was almost like a mentor to the kids that were there, that they're kinesiology or exercise science majors, and trying to decide what they were going to do when they left. And I was like, don't worry, kid, this is already like my 2.5 profession. And so let me give you some life lessons, as I take a drag from a cigarette behind the building kind of thing. that kind of thing. And so, and then I eventually got into PT school, and now I'm here in this.
Very cool.
So kind of a odd path to get to physical therapy, but I'm a very firm believer that with school you don't have to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
For some people it takes a couple trips, a couple stumbles.
Even for me, it was like my first introduction into school, which is at Texas State too. I was going to school for music. It's like, how the hell did I end up over here? You know what I mean? It's like totally different.
That's why you're so good at the bass.
That's why.
Yeah.
And then, did you have any weird comings and goings, or was it just straight into it?
Yeah, I feel like I had about 14 different mental breakdowns going through undergrad.
There's a lot of breakdowns in metal too, so that's a great fit.
We get along, honestly.
That's why we get along. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I went in athletic training, and we would wake up at 3:00 in the morning just to go pour water in some dude's mouth, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't what I was meant for.
That's insane,
right? And they
boot camp, or was that?
I thought I was in athletic training, but plot twist, it could have been.
Wow.
But yeah, I figured out I didn't really want to go along that route. Like I said, I think there was a pre-PT route, but I knew how competitive it was.
Yeah.
And I knew there wasn't a really good likelihood of me getting in right away. So I was like, let's do something that has a lot more background to it, that I could go into something else if needed, and still work my way to PT, because I was super into exercise, super into sports. So I got my degree in biology, and then I started getting into my second year in undergrad, started getting into more powerlifting and stuff.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah, you've always been in powerlifting, man. Yeah.
And then I love the 20-minute rest breaks.
Yeah.
I love the 20-minute rest breaks. And I love the 5 reps.
I love eating cake from a bag.
I love eating cake from a bag. I love not even hearing about the word cardio. That's just my life.
All it is a car to get to the gym. That's it. That's the only part of the word you use.
Exactly. If you want to lean down, just lift a little bit quicker, and that's your cardio. But don't do it for long. But yeah, I got super into that, and started powerlifting for a little while, and had no clue what I was doing. I was just like, I must lift heavy weight, must put down.
I mean, in your defense, that's 90% of it.
The whole sport.
That sounds exactly right.
Yeah. So got more into the exercise realm, and then my senior year, when I was applying for PT school, my grandma had 2 strokes, and she ended up having to go into the hospital, and I saw physical therapy in the hospital setting, which I always thought about exercise setting, right? Never thought about outpatient or sports medicine. Never thought about the acute care, because didn't really spend a lot of my life in the hospital. But while she was there, she got physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language pathology heavily.
Just the full rehab.
Yeah, heavily. And so whenever I was there, they're like, hey, we come once a day. If we show you these exercises, you can do them with her. And I was super cool. Get me involved, because she was stubborn too, so she didn't do them half the time.
Right.
So I just got to interact with her, do exercises with her, see that realm of physical therapy. And then I was like, yeah, this is really what I'm meant for. So
interesting.
Yeah, got accepted in and then took off from there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's always interesting how like it comes from somewhere else, you know what I mean? Or some like weird little aspect and you're like, oh, I think I want to do this, you know? Because Edwin, you went to school to be a teacher first, right?
Yeah, I was gonna be a teacher and coach,
Yeah.
but then I hated parents.
It's never the kids. It's like it's never the kids.
No, yeah.
It's the parents and the admin half. It's just
Yeah.
horrible. It's
Yeah.
like y'all probably deal with it. Like it's the insurance company for y'all, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
same concept. It's just annoying.
Just like
and dealing with them.
bureaucracy of everything.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
got reached out by my buddy one day. He wanted personal training. I said, all right, I guess I'll just quit everything I'm doing right now and just do that.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. And kind of like same concept Beto is doing, dealing with a lot of people who are injured
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I just really enjoyed that aspect. I just don't want to do the schooling y'all did for the next couple of years.
Yeah. That
And
shit's
help-
super
Yeah,
hard.
tell me
man.
about that. Yeah, when I went back, it was I had to commit to 2 years of just prerequisites, because that's what my history degree did, and had 0 credits that transferred over. I had a degree.
Yeah.
That was it. And so I basically had to start all over. Is really what it felt like. So it was a big jump.
So when you showed up when I had met you, had you done PT before at all? Like had you worked in other clinics or anything?
No, that was that was quote unquote my first job as a physical therapist.
Were you scared? Were we all scared?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I wasn't, because I've been fired before. So I was like,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, I have a fresh start.
I'm
and,
used to rejection.
I was like, I'm used to it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
get into PT school the first time I applied, so that was
Yeah.
another that was my breakdown moment there.
By the time you had already gotten there, you were like,
yeah, I
fuck
was
this
like,
thing.
I've done it. I'm here. I've
Yeah,
made it.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's like it's my thing to lose now.
Yeah.
That's how I viewed it.
Jesse, you said you were scared
Oh
though.
yeah.
Yeah.
I get nervous for everything.
That's
dude.
fair. Yeah.
I'd even been working for a little bit at another outpatient clinic, so
Right.
it wasn't even my first job. I was just coming in shaking. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny, man. Well, I'm glad that I met you guys there. That's super, serendipitous that it's just like in that time frame it did. But like to what Edwin was saying, like the whole sort of, I guess, like back end side of it, that was one of the reasons why like I decided, because I don't even know if I ever told y'all like why I decided to not do PT or anything like
No,
that.
you just pieced out.
Yeah.
You
Just tell
go
them the truth.
just
You
left.
can't handle it.
yeah. It's too much pressure. It's too much. And like partly, yeah, because it's like I remember working with you guys and like going to school and like finishing up my bachelor's and stuff like that. And I hadn't applied to PT school yet because I think I hadn't finished my bachelor's yet when I was going to school, which was another crazy thing because everybody else that came in like as technicians and stuff like already seemed to like have bachelor's degrees and things. And I was kind of like, I don't have that. Like, why am I here? Like,
Where do I get that?
yeah.
Do you have any extra left over somewhere? Can I have some?
If you have one that you're not using, I'll take it. Yeah, and then so I was going to school for it and everything and working with you guys. And like same thing is kind of just this moment, I guess, where you guys noticed that you wanted to do PT. I kind of noticed that I was like, I don't think I want to do this. And it was interesting because like all of y'all said, I had the same thing where I was like, wow, I really like helping people who are injured. I really like this aspect of it. Like that's what I wanted to do. Because even when I was personal training before, I wasn't necessarily doing any of that. I mean, honestly, I was just trying to make money in general. So I was just taking anybody and anything. But I didn't even realize, I think at the moment, that there was this whole aspect of like helping injured people, you know, until I started working at the clinic. But yeah, I was like, I was going through school for everything and stuff like that. And just like hearing you guys talk about it and everything. And I was just like, this is so time consuming. It's like so much of your life. It's so much schooling. It's so much money. It's so much everything. And at the moment in time, I was like, I already like don't have any time. Like I've never seen my kid. I'm never doing this. I'm never doing that. And I was going to school and it was during COVID. So everything was virtual, which made it harder for me already. Cause like I can't really do virtual setting stuff. And it was my physics 2 class. And I remember taking it and like sitting there looking at my homework and I was like, why the fuck am I learning about magnets and electricity right now? Like, I was like, this is pissing me off. Like,
Because we are glorified computers.
yeah.
Carbon-based computers.
And I was just like, bro, like this has nothing to do with what I want to do. I feel like I'm wasting so much time doing all this stuff when I could be maybe helping people in other ways, in like personal training aspect and stuff. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to take some time off from this. I'm going to go withdraw from school. And I was like, I'm going to try really, really hard at personal training for like a year. if I can make it, if I'm successful, then I'll continue with it. I was like, if not, it was a year, fuck it, I'll go back to school. You know, like no skin off my back, whatever. But then, yeah, I was like super successful at it. Met Edwin. We kind of like started. Well, I'd already met Edwin by then, but I think I think he saw an opportunity because I had just fallen out of school and I was all like, you know, fuck this and everything. And he was like, let's do our own shit, man. And I was like, I do want to do my own shit. Like I don't want to work for anybody else anymore. And so we had already been friends by then and like, you know, hooked up and did a whole thing. And
whoa, we didn't hook up like that.
Hey, come on.
Hey,
we can tell. We can tell.
Obviously, you know who has long hair. So.
And, yeah, we like talked about it, you know, and everything. And that was one of my goals in general was that I never wanted to work for someone else. I never wanted to work for another clinic. I never wanted to like be somewhere else. I always wanted to own my own and all this stuff. But then I was like, damn, that's really fucking hard too. And there's all this other aspects to it and everything. And so, doing it with like a partner seemed like a lot more efficient, I guess. And Edwin had already had like a foundation of kind of what he wanted to do. And sort of when he told me about it, I was like, that sounds kind of right up my alley, man. Like that sounds like exactly what I would like to do too. So yeah, we did our whole podcast thing and all this stuff. And so that's how we kind of ended up here doing this. And now you guys are here and it's all full circle.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But like going into that, like I said, that whole back end of it, like, how do you guys like deal with all of that, especially being PTs? Like, I know you want to help people and everything, but I also know that you're kind of like restricted in a lot of ways of what you can't do, even just like time. Like, how do you kind of manage that? What do you do?
For me, I guess because I've gone through multiple phases in my life, multiple jobs in my life, and learning what, for me, success and failure looked like. Was a big component for me. So when I'm working with my patients, I try to stick to as close to an hour time frame as possible.
Right.
And the first thought that goes into my mind is how much work does this person truly need versus what is extra, what is bonus, and not from a like, oh, what's going to kill time, but hey, if this person can do a little bit more, cool, bonus.
Right.
For them. And so I try to keep that frame of mind when building a plan of care for their condition. And sometimes it's 30 minutes. Sometimes it's 45 minutes. I've even done sometimes where I do have a patient that comes in, he's there for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
But it's because it's the volume of work that they truly need for their condition. So I try not to keep people in a something that they don't need. I want everything to ultimately fit, but if I can get that within that 1 hour time frame, that keeps my day smooth. And that's one of the ways that I really work on just managing the difficulty of schedule. So what we do right now is I see a patient every 30 minutes.
Right.
And then, like you said, Nathaniel, that we have a technician. So you were a technician of ours, and they're kind of like an extension of us. They have their hands. They are our hands. And really help us with getting patients to equipment, grabbing whatever we need, looking at the schedule for us, that type of thing. They're almost like assistants to us.
Right.
And so we kind of split duty whenever we have 2 patients in an hour. And it's a really effective system.
Yeah, it is.
I think it has a really great opportunity, a lot from the fact that as you said, a lot of these kids coming in who already had their degrees or they're wanting to get into PT, and this is how you get those hours. This is how you get that exposure of, do I actually want to do this?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And for some people, this is actually their first foray into a professional setting.
True.
So that can be very, very nerve wracking.
Yeah.
And so that's the other part of what I do that I feel is very, very important is these technicians that are coming in, giving them a perspective on what they actually want for their professional career, but also understanding the implications of that. Like, if you want to know what it's like, guess what? Here it is. And being realistic with them. I'm not just snaps and claps and, a choir in the back telling them how great PT is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really appreciate, it's funny because all 3 of y'all are like my mentors, right? Going through like my career, college, school, life, everything. And so, hearing, y'all's like real perspective on it, I think like really, you know, helped, because I totally would have gone into a career that like I fucking hated, you know, and I wouldn't have been happy with it, or wouldn't have been what I expected, you know. And so hearing like what it was really like from y'all, I was like, okay, like I can trust these guys. Like I understand that this is what it is, right? This is the way it's going to be. And you either like it or you don't, you know? And so, okay. So Jessie, like what is your approach to, I guess I was going to say training, but like to helping patients, right? Because I feel like both of y'all, the main thing that I like about both of y'all is that y'all have a different approach than I've seen to, like, I don't know, I guess the only thing I could say is like just doctors.
Just physical therapists.
Yeah. Like I feel like you guys like have different backgrounds clearly, right? Like powerlifting training and stuff like that. And I feel like that changes how you know, approach plans of care.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with Beto and I, we have significantly different approaches, but I think they're both wonderful. And it's so weird because as physical therapists, as different as our approaches are, when you get us to like a personal level, like we're best buddies too. Mm-hmm. So, which is kind of the weird thing because we're so different in the clinic, but then outside of the clinic, we're like, yeah, let's go eat as much sushi as possible. And we're like, that sounds like the best idea ever. Or let's go play some pickleball, or let's go lift really heavy things and put them down today. And he's like, let's do that. Sounds great. Right? So I think when it comes to like my approach to physical therapy is like, I always start off with empathy. Empathy is my biggest approach ever. And it's something that I like really, it's something that's super important for me and I take a lot of pride in. Because I've been that way since I started. And I feel like when it comes to physical therapy, one of the biggest difference between the medical side of things for doctors and the physical therapy side of things for doctors is we have the beauty of spending a lot more time with our patients and seeing our patients a lot more throughout the week. 2 times, 3 times. I've had a patient prescribed 4 or 5 times a week before. And so if you set in and you start with empathy and that's where your foundation is, then they open up to you, right? Like it's no longer just back pain. It's, I can't play with my grandchild on the ground. And you're like, okay, let's get you on the ground now. Like, let's start like playing with stuff on the ground. Let's start throwing a ball if you have like, if they have pets or walking pets or, but they're never going to tell somebody those little things if you don't start with empathy first. And then it's like, well, then what is physical therapy for? We're going to do 10 by 10 clamshells. Yeah. Right. And so it's no longer like a standard.
I've seen it.
Right? Yeah. Right? It's no longer like a standard thing. It's individualized. It's motivational for the patients, and you're actually getting them back to doing something that they want to do. And I'm not dogging clamshells, right? But it's not standard anymore. And I think that's when you come from an approach with empathy, that's the best thing that you can do as a doctor, honestly.
Yeah, wow, that was really good. Yeah, because I agree too. I feel like a lot of the problems that we have, right, like talking to people or meeting others or even just other trainers and stuff like that, is that you don't start with like that personable aspect. Like you don't start to get to know clients or patients. And like in our field, you know, like where I'm at right now, like they'll go over your retention rate, you know, like how many clients are you retaining. And I have a lot of retention, you know, and it's like, I don't really think that I'm doing anything super spectacular or, you know, giving people secret deals or anything, but it's just that like,
if you got any, I mean, holla at me.
It's like, meet me in this alley over here. Yeah.
I got this needle and inject right here.
That needle's full of empathy.
You're gonna feel so good.
Is that a street name now? It's like, yo, you need the empathy, dude.
I'm doing like 2 empathy a day. But yeah, is that like, I think I just fucking talk to people. Yeah. I just talk to them and get like, if you ask me anything about any of my clients, I could tell you 10 things about them, you know, and I feel like that keeps them around way longer, you know, than anything else. And in our field, you like need that trust from those people because if not, like you said, they're not going to tell you anything.
Oh yeah.
You know, like in the amount of information I get in an initial consultation, it's like I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I think I did it, you know, and then like a week later they're like, oh, well, I also had this thing and I was like, what the fuck, dude?
Exactly.
Like, like, why didn't you tell me that before? You know, and it's like, but it's like, yeah, there's that little bit of like trust built up that has to happen, you know, and if it doesn't, then you really can't get anywhere with them. You know, like there has to be at least like some level of that in there. It's not all, like you said, like for us, it's not all, okay, we're gonna fucking kill you and we're gonna throw this medicine ball and blah blah, because like what the fuck is that gonna do? You know, if they have all of these issues or other things, you know. But yeah, like Edwin's making a face at me because it's like, how many times do we see that though? You know, and I'm pretty sure that you guys see it at least in some way in PT, you know, like with whatever you've seen on Instagram or something like that. Because I've been at clinics before y'all's, and when I was just like shadowing and observing and just getting hours and shit like that. But like there's like one clinic that comes to mind where it was just like, all right, we're gonna do like 2 exercises and then like a hot pad and like an ultrasound machine and blah blah blah. And I was just like, this is what we're doing. Like this is
just super passive.
Yeah, super passive kind of PT. Yeah, and so like working with you guys, or honestly, the clinic that y'all are at is kind of the only clinic that I've ever encountered that is like that, where it's so like shit is happening all the time, and you know, it's very little of that. It's sort of just like passive whateverness going on. Yeah.
I know with kind of, you know, with clients that you all are talking about, that what's really tough for us too is the fact that nobody wants to come see us.
Yeah.
Like they have an injury, so they need to rehab it. It's they've been told by a physician or someone else in the medical system, hey, you have this problem, you need to go to physical therapy.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like Jessie was saying, empathy is so important for us, is because they don't want to be.
You're starting here
Around us. Yeah, we're starting there at their rock bottom. And we're just trying to get to know them as people first.
Yeah.
And then going from there.
Or they're like frustrated with lifelong pain or whatever it is, you know, and it's
no
like
one's listened to them or kept telling them it's whatever.
Okay, so that's a good topic right there. So like, as physical therapists, right, you guys have to get referrals from someone else or whatever it is in some cases, right? How do you or like, what do y'all think? I guess I'm trying to think of how to like phrase the question, but a lot of times, I guess, in like our Western American medicine, a lot of it is like, take a pill, do this medication, do whatever. Like, how much, if you guys could say in a percentage, do you think could be fixed with physical therapy as opposed to like just straight medication or things like that?
Like back surgery, right?
Surgeries too. Yeah.
That's a tough way to try and come up with an actual number.
Percentage.
Yeah. And it's like, obviously it's not going to be like a real percentage, right? But just like,
no, whatever Beto says is right.
That's it. It's definitive, right?
I'm going to write it in the
write
description.
It down, by the way. Beto said.
Dr. San Miguel said, and he said everything else is wrong.
I would say that, like on a conservative side, I would say like 25%.
Okay.
Just as a starting point there, and that's more so from simply getting people being more active, because we do have people that are coming in that are, I leaned forward to get off the toilet and it hurt my back, or I was picking up a heavy pot from inside the sink and I strained my shoulder. You know, like it's just everyday activity. People have gotten less functional and less capable of those things, and we see a lot of those types of injuries. And so with physical therapy, and I think with training and strength and conditioning as well, we could mitigate a lot of those issues very easily.
Yeah. Right. I would, to build off of that, I feel like it's hard to give a percentage because yes, movement, exercise, physical therapy can help with a lot, but it's only going to help with things if you're willing to keep up with the process. Nobody likes a process anymore. Like you're saying, they want a pill, they want a quick fix, right? But
they want the empathy shot.
They want two.
Right.
Right. But I mean, if there are a lot of people who have been dealing with pain, especially if they've been dealing with it for a long time and it affects them from a functional standpoint so much, they're motivated. They'll stick with you. They'll go with the process, right?
True.
But those people who have that type of personality where it's like, I want something quick and fast, they're not going to get that outcome from physical therapy, even if they would, if they stuck with the process.
Yeah, man, that's really true. Because I mean, we run into the same problem all the time with clients who come in and they're like, I want to lose 50 pounds in 3 months. And I'm like, go somewhere else because I don't know what the fuck to tell you because that's impossible. Unless you stop eating today,
but you're being honest. That's the thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't honest with
Right. And so how do you guys deal with that, especially in physical therapy? Because I feel like in our field, we can kind of like be a little like rougher on people and be like.
Yes, we do it very professionally.
Yeah.
Very, very eloquent words because we're not allowed to just tell people tough shit. And
because I've literally told people, like, I've had clients who walked in and been like, well, I lost 50 pounds in the past doing blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, then why are you sitting here? Like, why are you sitting here asking me to help you do it again? Yeah. Like, it didn't work, you know? So, like, we need to try something else this time. Yeah. But I can only imagine it's so much harder in y'all's field where it's like, what do you even do? Like, how do you even deal with that?
For me, I just try to be very honest with them about what I'm anticipating for their prognosis. But then also getting their opinion. And again, that empathy part of it is if they say, well, I want to be like this, and asking, well, what do you think is going to get you there? And then let just trying to figure out what's their train of thought and then giving them my train of thought as well.
That's pretty good.
And just figuring out how do we meet in the middle
somewhere,
or like say some people being really honest with them, that they have a condition that is a true surgical need and telling them, look, I can only get you so far before you need a surgical intervention to truly address what's happening. I'd like to keep working with you, but ultimately I have a upper threshold of what I can do for you.
Right.
Yeah. And people appreciate that. Again, because they, like I said, people don't actively come seek us out because that's not how our portion of the medical system works. And then they go, wow, you're not just trying to take my money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm trying to help you.
Right.
And so that's a big thing for me is just seeing where can we get together on the same thought process and just being honest about
it's like managing expectations.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for summing up like 5 sentences
I got it.
in one phrase.
I feel like that was like one of the hardest things to do whenever I became a physical therapist, because there's a certain type of person that becomes a physical therapist and they're like, I want to help everyone. We're going to meet all goals that you want, right? But then if I have somebody in that's had 2 hip replacements, 2 knee replacements, and a bad back, and they want to run a marathon, then I have to be like, well, let's talk about other goals, right? It's like more realistic goals, and like Beto was saying, just trying to be like straight up honest with somebody because they're coming to you for your medical advice and not giving false hope in a second.
How do you decide when something is fixable through physical therapy and when a surgical intervention is required? Like, despite obvious acute things like my arm is ripped off or something, you know what I mean? But like, how do you kind of make that deduction between the two?
Yeah, I think a lot of the times it comes down to function. So say someone comes in and they have a torn tissue, whether it's a ligament or a muscle or any kind of injury, and they're limited in function in the fact that they haven't been able to like really walk around. We'll say it's a teenager, walk around school, go up and down stairs, and play their sports, right? Take them through rehab. Obviously, if they're at a young age where they're healing quickly, you can do a lot because those are the types of, or that's the type of population that's going to bounce back a little bit quicker just because they're younger, they're more resilient.
Right.
But there might be things that they still can't do. You get them to a point, they've returned back to practice, they're walking around school, they're climbing up and down stairs, but they can't do maybe like contact sports. Then it's up to them, if it's a teenager, obviously their parents too, saying like, hey, do you want to live the rest of your life without playing contact sports, without playing football? Do you plan on going to college for this? Do you plan on taking it further? Or do you think that you want to go through surgery with this and then try to become a D1, D2 athlete? So I think it just depends on where people are going in life and whether they can, with the amount of function that they have, whether they can do what they want to do.
Interesting.
Everybody with that depends word.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Which is look, the farther
People hate it.
if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's the further you go, the grayer everything gets.
Yeah, which is really true too, because it's like sort of at the beginning of training or even PT, I bet, like you said, you're kind of like, we're going to do everything and we're going to help everyone and everything is going to be possible and I can do it all. And then you kind of get to like a real patient. You're just like, oh, like, well, this probably isn't going to happen, Yeah. And it kind of brings you into that reality aspect. And, we have a lot of friends or clients and stuff like that. And especially I don't know how it is in like the PT world, I guess, but in like the training world, there's like so much crap online, of just like you do this and blah, blah, and that'll help you do whatever, Yeah. And so it's like, or like me and Edwin always talk about like videos where they're like, this one trick will like fix your whole hip pain, Yeah. Yeah. And then people come in, they're like, well, I saw this on blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah. And it's a double-edged sword, right? Because people are getting exposure to the things that we have to offer.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not always in the best context. They see this super crazy exercise on y'all's end, and then they come into the clinic for us. Oh, well, I saw this video online. I'm like, well, you have hip dysplasia, and if you do that, it's going to dislocate.
Right.
Exactly.
And so trying to tell them it's probably not a good idea that you do that. And educating them on why.
Yeah. But that
and
goes into it, where it's just like every single thing, every single patient, every single injury, whatever, is always going to be different than the last one. I'm sure you guys see, the same surgery from the same surgeon and it's completely different, every single time, just based on like how you said, how people heal, their age, what they want to do in their life, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's like, there's so much gray area, that I feel like is hard to sort of convey to some people sometimes, where it's like, it's not just going to be this black and white, linear trend positively up.
And I think that's another thing that's tough just for how people perceive physical therapy from the like general population standpoint, is because they want a definitive answer. And we are so trained to not give a definitive answer because we want to have the best information available to help them and make sure they understand it. So just in general conversation or whatever, even just talking with people that they're like, hey, what do you think of blah, blah, blah? I'm like,
I don't know.
I don't have enough information. I can't get, and then they're like, okay, well then you don't know shit. Because you're not giving me a definitive answer and
figure it out off of one sentence.
And so that's a hard thing for us as physical therapists. Is context is so important, and we don't just want to give some random piece of information in an uninformed manner, because then we don't want it to come back on us.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the same
somebody.
thing. Or hurt somebody. Yeah. Because the same thing for us too. It's like, we'll have people in our DMs like, I hurt my back the other day, like blah, blah, blah. Can you help me do whatever? Can you give me some stretches to do? And I'm just like, I guess like I can give you like 3 random back stretches, I guess, but I don't know. You didn't tell me anything.
One of my favorite sidebar. One of my favorite things for people is when they're like, "Hey, I pulled my hamstring. What are some good stretches for it?" And I went, "Hey, what does it mean when you pull your hamstring?" And they're like, "I stretched it." I was like, "So you want me to give you stretches?" And then they're kind of like,
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's difficult to like, I guess, like manage people's expectations and just kind of like always have to give this vague answer to everything, because I feel like that's one of the reasons we talk about the fact that like I don't think that like our clips get 1 million clicks on them or whatever, because it's not like this clickbait like, oh, we're gonna tell you how to lose weight today or whatever. Or even if we do say that, we're like, well, there's 18 different ways to lose weight, and it's all going to depend on you, and what you did in the past and your food allergies and all, everything.
Gotta be in a caloric deficit.
Yeah. And it's like, so there's just so many aspects to everything. It's interesting that you say that about PT, like how people perceive physical therapy,
So y'all are in the medical realm and all that. Do doctors really communicate well with PTs, that like they send y'all someone? Do y'all even talk? Like, does that even happen? Like communication from one person to another on that high of a level?
Sometimes yes. Sometimes, most of the time, no. So when I was in PT school, I was in an organization, and it was about interdisciplinary approaches, getting everyone on the team: medical, pharmacy, chiro care, acupuncture, massage therapy, physical therapy, whoever the patient is seeing. And I've had some patients where we would all be on board and I would have a doctor call and talk 45 minutes into my lunch. But I appreciate it, right? Because we're all on the same page and they're getting the best care that they can. But I would say like most of the time, 70% of the time, it's hard to get a hold of other doctors or other healthcare providers. Just because it's such a busy kind of lifestyle too. Not blaming them, but them focusing on productivity, trying to see their patients, and they're like, do they even have time to talk to another doctor about that? But it's super important nonetheless.
Yeah. How do you, I guess, handle situations like that where you don't have contact with them? How much contact do y'all really need from the doctor? Like after a while, at some point do you just kind of like take it on your own, or?
That depends too. I mean, it's another depend question, right? So one of my patients right now who we have like the entire medical group together and on the same board has been someone who has torn a muscle, actually like a tendon, went in for surgery, came out, retore it, had to go back in for surgery, right? So that's a complex case. So the more complex a case is, whether it's because of their specific medical condition or other comorbidities, that's more important versus a clean cut shoulder pain. I still want to be in touch with that doctor and let them know what I think's going on and hear their opinion too. But we might not need as big of a medical team or to carry that out for as long as I have for the complex patients.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's nice just for record's sake. Mm-hmm. So I have, for a good example for me is I have a patient right now that has a peripheral vascular issue in their legs.
Okay.
So I'm in contact with their primary care physician, their cardiology physician, and it's just a contact thing saying, hey, this is the symptoms that they're presenting with today. If y'all have any concerns for that, I'll let her know that y'all want to come see her. Otherwise, if y'all think that this is a normal thing to happen, then great, we'll just continue along. As in, they're like, thanks for the call. You get good and bad apples, just like anything, right?
Yeah.
And you get other offices that you try and contact them, and they're like, is that all you needed to talk to me about? Like, you're wasting my time.
I'd be like,
They're like left on red.
So it's
rude.
And again, it's like Jessie said. Sometimes some physicians are very well aware of why the interdisciplinary approach is very important.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're just like any other job. Like some people are there to clock in, clock out. Anything outside of that, they're like, it's a burden.
Yeah. Yeah. That sucks. Yeah, because it's like I feel like me and Edwin have tried to get more of that interdisciplinary approach to things, like where it's like, hey, like you should probably go see this person, or you should probably go talk to that person, or oh, your doctor said you needed to come in here. Like, why? Like, you know, can they talk to me? Can they do whatever? You know, and it's just like never happens.
Yeah,
I think it's just very hard in our situation because we don't have that degree.
Yeah,
and
which is
a lot of people. Even I've gone to my clients' PTs and they'll start talking to me like I'm the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah.
And it's crazy until I start talking back in their lingo and they're like, oh, he actually knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. All PTs I've come across has started like that. I literally had a conversation with one of my clients, PTs, and we were on the phone for like an hour and she was just shocked. And since then she sent me like 4 or 5 clients.
yeah.
And I just think that personal trainers got a bad rep.
Which is crazy,
Yeah.
you know, like in personal training, like it's fucking hard for us to get into contact with people, but it's also hard for y'all to get into contact with people.
Yeah,
you know?
I know.
It's like, dude, there's no winning here.
and coming from the bad rep too, like that happens in like the PT realm too. Like there can be PTs who are just, like I said, the 10x10 clamshells, right? And like standard, and I'm just gonna bash clamshells this entire time.
This is a clamshell
We talk about that's
podcast now.
the way you build a big butt.
Yeah.
Like a J-Lo
Side
butt.
butt.
Yeah.
You're gonna have like 30 bands on.
All different colors. But yeah, like just like in I'm assuming like the training world of things, you have people who like the clickbait, right?
Yep.
Who are just trying to get like the attention, the followers, and they really don't like care about their clients, and they're not doing the things that they should for their clients. Same thing in the physical therapy realm. We have physical therapists who clock in, clock out. They do their clamshells and then they go home. They're not doing what's necessary for their patients, and so their patients aren't getting far. And I feel like those are the people who aren't communicating too, right? Versus people who like actually care, and people who are trying to reach out to PTs or trying to reach out to medical doctors and create that interdisciplinary approach are the people who, one, actually care, and it's where you're going to get your patients. So keep it up, for sure.
Try.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
It's tough when the burden of proof is always on us. As a whole, and it's it's a challenge, and I think that as physical therapists, like we have to embrace it, and be confident in our knowledge and what we think is best for our patients, and just continue to fight that fight.
If you could change one thing about the physical therapy career field, what would it be? Jessie, go first. She's smiling.
Documentation.
Okay.
I want to spend my time with my patients, which I do.
Yeah.
Like I said, I made a comment like a little bit earlier about being in the physical therapy realm versus being like in the medical realm. I do feel like we get to spend a lot more time with our patients and be more empathetic and just chat and develop a rapport better. But I mean, if I could do without being in front of a computer, like at all, even if it's just like 10% of the time, I would be living my best life right now.
Yeah.
I am, but
an even bester life.
Even bester.
To be honest, a lot of my clients tell me I should go to PT, and I'm like, I don't want to sit in front of a computer all day typing around.
Fight insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's for all intents and purposes, that is a lot of our job is in front of a computer. Is we do our evaluation with the patient, we spend that time with them. Then from there on, it's just building a plan of care and documenting, because it's so much of the physical therapy realm is just based on reimbursement from insurance or otherwise, and everything that we do is really just justification for why we should get paid the small amount of money that we get paid for it.
So like every single thing you're doing is just like trying to like prove that something is happening.
It's to prove that something's happening, or if I have somebody working on sit to stands, so sitting from a chair, standing up, and putting justification in my note. I am doing this because it's going to help patient be able to get on and off the toilet at home, which is a very important functional activity for them. And then the insurance reads it and goes, I guess we'll pay you for that.
Yeah, that it's necessary.
That it's necessary.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
That's crazy.
And so that's every single patient, every single thing that we do is for the sake of justifying reimbursement.
Why is it set up that way?
Money.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
And let's clarify that it's not like money for us or reimbursement for us, but that the insurance is going to pay for the patient to come see us. Because there are some patients out there where like a copay might be really cheap or a copay might be really expensive, but the people, let's say someone's copay is $20 and they can't afford much more than that, and we send in a note that is not as deep or accurate as we thought it was, and it comes back and it gets denied, and now that patient who needs physical therapy but can't pay more than $20 in copay, they're getting a denial from their insurance, and now they're having the only way they can see us is through cash pay, which is so much more, and they can't afford it. So it ultimately comes back to giving the ability to someone to come see us.
So typically they probably package like 16 sessions or something like that worth, and then they want you to like re-up it or something like that with insurance.
Like
sometimes.
get another referral.
Well, how does that all work? Because I know sometimes they're like, oh, you get 16 sessions. I'm saying it again, or this person gets 32. How do they decide how many sessions someone gets?
There's a couple ways to that. So per the Practice Act for physical therapists, in Texas in particular, we can see patients without a referral for 10 days If you go through a residency or a fellowship, which is another 2 to 3 years of education, you get an additional 5 days. Woo, 15
Business days.
Business days, yes, business days. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so after that, you need a referral. So sometimes, and then you can also just get a referral from the physician from the start. Now, they will sometimes evaluate and treat, and then they just leave it entirely up to us to decide how many visits a patient needs based on what we find in our initial evaluation. Other times, they will give a stipulation 2 times a week for 4 to 6 weeks, or sometimes for surgical, they'll say 5 times a week for 2 weeks, and then a change after that. So it really depends on what the prescription given to us states, but then we try to give our input in a very professional manner of whether we think somebody needs more, something they need less, and then hoping that we get a positive response from that referring physician after the fact. So it's a constantly changing thing, especially because patients' conditions change as well. If they have a fall or they have some other unexpected injury in the process of treatment, well, now we have to adjust. And so it's very important for us to constantly keep those things in mind. And while we're writing our documentation of justifying it and saying, no, this is why we're doing this change, why it needs to happen, why it needs to be paid.
Damn.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, so you're like fighting for the patient
All the time.
all the time.
Yeah. We're like the Beastie Boys for patients.
Yeah. Fight for your right for PT. Yeah.
So I'm gonna get out of PT a little bit and more into like our type of space.
Yeah.
So what is general populations? What style of training do you like for general pop mostly, and why?
She average Joe.
That's
I know it's a very depends questions because we do this, but like if you had to pick one style, like functional training, quote unquote. I hate that word.
I know, right? We have to use that word in our documentation too. It's just functional this, functional that, functional this, functional that. Yes, functional stair climbing, functional transfer training.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start off the topic with saying like I have my youngest patient right now is like 13, and my oldest is like turning 95 this week.
Yeah.
So just talking about
happy birthday. Happy birthday.
I know. I'm super excited for him. But I'm gonna let kind of Beto start. But we just have such a big range being in an outpatient orthopedic setting.
So for me, I think I have the fortunate setting of doing strength and conditioning, personal training at some point in the past, and then now physical therapy. As far as just mode of training that I think the average person needs is just compound and just very general motion. Focus on your how people primal is the I think is the new keyword. But I just and for me it's push, pull, hinge, squat, carry. Those are the things that we do on a daily basis, and we can do really fun, cool exercises, but ultimately at the end of the day, those are the things that people need the most. And if they get good at doing those things, they're going to get good at daily life. And it's not sexy. It's not cool.
I know.
It's the basics. It's foundational, but it's there for a reason.
So let me ask you guys this question. Why do you think that those big compound movements are more important than me standing on a Bosu ball with one leg doing a bicep curl, doing all this crazy shit? You know what I mean? Like, because we tell people this all the time. I'm going to teach you 5, maybe 6 exercises. Everything else we do is just going to be sort of some variation of those, right? In order to make those better, right? Like I'm going to teach you a squat and I might show you a variation of like a reverse lunge or something, but that's just a squat. You know what I mean? Everything is just that. But why are those movements the biggest sort of best movements that are done?
I know you don't like the term functional training, right? So I won't use that, right?
We don't use that F word around here.
The quotations are very
functional training. But like, look at everything that we're doing, right? Look, we're sitting on the couch right now. We're gonna have to stand up after this and be on our merry way. Or if we're walking, every daily movement that you have kind of revolves around that in a modified way. multiple modifications, but in a modified way.
That's another one, is just walk. People need to walk. Stop sitting in a chair. Get out of your desk. Right oh my God. Like if that, and people think I'm being sarcastic because even patients will ask me, what's the best thing that I can do outside of here to help my condition? I say, walk. Walk for 30 minutes, walk for an hour, whatever you can do.
5
just
minutes,
walk for 5 minutes. If that's all you had, just walk.
Yeah. Yeah, because one of my family members just recently got like a pre-diabetes diagnosis. And so my mom was asking me, like, what do I tell her to do? Like, what do I do? And I was like, walk like 20 minutes a day. I was like, she honestly probably wouldn't even have to change her diet. And I bet her blood work would come back differently if she walked for 20 minutes a day for like a month, you know? And I was like, and start easy, like start with that. And then, later on, you probably have to change something, right? Like in your nutrition and stuff like that. But it's like, it's so simple. It's so easy, you know? And I feel like another thing too is like when we tell people that, like clients and stuff, and they're like, that couldn't possibly be it. You know
it
can't
can't be that simple.
Yeah, it can't be that.
Yeah,
you're telling me you want me to walk for 30 minutes, lift 3 times a week, and do 5 exercises. You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, and I'm like, and it's funny, and it's like I think that's also why I don't know. I guess clients maybe come back more often because it's like, it is that easy, you know. Because I mean, I've seen, and I think it's the best for anything, whether you want to lose weight, whether you want to gain weight, whether you want to, you know, these are just movements that need to be done. Essentially, it's like a requirement, you know. And I think that's why like some clients are like, oh, okay, like I can do this, you know. And it's funny because there'll be trainers who are like doing a bunch of stuff, you know. And like my clients will be like, if you ever make me do that, I'll be so mad.
Pulls out knife.
And I'm like, we're not doing it.
Like, I'm sorry, why'd you bring a knife to the
But so okay, that's really I want to hear y'all's opinion on that. So that's good.
I think it like also like the term, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's the most cheesy term, right? Yeah. And you learn it throughout PT school, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, like in the training setting. But if you're not walking, if you're not doing those 5 exercises, right, that can be modified to do any daily activity, then you're not going to be able to do that daily activity. And if you can't do a simple daily activity, how are you supposed to get in the gym and go lift and do all of these hardcore, or not hardcore, right, but just like more aggressive, more intense movements?
Okay, so let me ask you guys this question, because we talk a lot about like one of our staples is least effective dose, right? So when someone comes in and you know they have this issue or weight loss or whatever it is, okay, well, I'm going to do the smallest amount of thing to make the needle move, and we're going to stick with that until it doesn't work anymore, and then I'll add in something else, and add in something else. Do you guys take that same approach to PT?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Why do you feel like that's more effective than starting way at the top where most people want to start? Right? Because I mean, I have clients who come in and they're like, I'm going to work out 5 days a week and I want to go. And I'm like, we're going to do like 2 maybe. You know,
we're going to start small.
And you know, and people will be like, you know, like kind of disappointed about it. And I'm just like, I'm not doing that, you know, because it's so like, how do you guys, or why do you think that that's a better approach than going 100?
For me, it's a lot of it's just realistic expectations, but then also out of true caution. Again, if I have somebody that just had a hip surgery, well, I'm not going to have them, okay, let's go run on the treadmill. Yeah. You know, I'm going to have them slide their leg back and forward on a slick surface to just start getting some range of motion so they don't scar up and then that hip gets stuck. Yeah. So that's the least effective dose for that. And for even people that are, you know, more athletically inclined or physically capable, same thing with them. It's what's going to get the job done, and then how do we build from there? There is with us, we really want to push people because we think it's great and we see the benefits of movement and are very gung-ho about it, but sometimes we have to reel that in ourselves because we can get a little too excited about it.
That's fair.
And so that it's like I need to have like a little post-it note on my laptop that's just like least effective dose. You know, to remember that not everybody is able to make those jumps, and that it's fine to take your time with that.
And I think like when it comes to health, fitness, rehabilitation in general, it all boils down to consistency. Can I?
Yep.
Yeah. And so, and whenever
Can you say that word again? I
Yeah.
didn't hear it quite right.
consistency. So whenever we're talking about consistency, it's the easiest or the more simplistic that you can make movement or make exercise. I don't even call it exercise sometimes. I call it movement.
I remember you telling me that one time. Yeah.
Like it's just because everybody's like, ooh, exercise. Because I feel like we also get a different population, right? Mm-hmm. People who are coming to y'all are like, yes, let's do 50 exercises today, and I don't want to be able to breathe afterwards.
Yeah.
Right? Or not everybody, but like more gun-ho.
Sure.
And then people who are coming into us, some are like that. Some are like, listen, I haven't exercised since 1934, right? And so
I'm only here because
exercise.
My doctor told me to be here, and I'm gonna get fined if I don't show up.
And so I think the word exercise can also scare people. So when we're talking about movement, the more simplistic that you can make it equals more consistency, and more consistency equals
better results. Yeah.
Progress.
Yeah, because there's a lot of times when, on the podcast and stuff, we talk about, or people will be like, what's the best workout program for this? What's the best workout program for that? Yeah. And we're just like, the one you're going to do, like the one that you're actually going to get done, Yeah. How many days a week should I work out? However many days a week you can work out, those are the things that are the options. And I think, again, it sort of comes down to where people are like, well, is it 5 days? Is it 6 days? And it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's 1 day for you. I have no clue.
Yeah. And if you take those 2 exercises and not the 50, you're going to be doing those like a lot more consistently. And so,
yeah, we need you guys to come talk to some of those clients, man.
No, they don't listen to us either.
Hard time getting my patients to do that. Trust me, you think
Plot twist.
Damn it.
So for yourselves, not general population, what are your 5 favorite exercises for yourself? Not squat, hinge.
You already took it.
Taco Cabana margarita.
This
is great. Yeah, 16-ounce curls. 16 ounce day. That's what I do. Drop set. Every ounce goes down.
Okay, Jessie, you first.
Can you repeat the question real quick?
What are your 5 favorite exercises for yourself, or movements? Sorry, that changed the lingo.
Right? There you go.
Can Beto go first so I can
so you have time to think about it?
on this?
Barbell squat, deadlift,
clamshells 10x10, longer quads.
So I think right now especially because I'm very much enamored with kettlebells and sandbags right now. So those are the easy ones for me to rattle off the top of my head. Kettlebell cleans.
What do you like about the kettlebell clean? Like, go into detail.
He trains a lot differently.
Yeah. I remember talking to him about it.
Yeah.
So for me, the kettlebell clean, it's more involvement of the upper body compared to just a swing where you're just trying to hold on to the bell for dear life. So much of the clean is positioning. So not just your body, but also the bell relative to your body. Bringing it up to your shoulder, having to control it on the way back down. I feel that it's a more technical movement that you get more out of it than just a swing by itself. Yeah.
And you're so accurate about it too. Like we've worked out together just normal training, but I've also seen you train with your kettlebells, and I feel like there's accuracy behind everything. Behind the control, behind the breathing work, behind the movement in general.
I don't think people understand how technical actual kettlebell training is.
It has to
know what I mean?
Yeah. It is the whole sport of kettlebell is just about efficiency of movement. So I would say the kettlebell clean would probably be my number one. Number one.
What's next?
Number one. Number 2, sandbag front squat. So either in a true front squat position or in like a Zerker hold. Just because the demand is very, very different. I feel like it affects your breathing and forces you to really control when you're inhaling, when you're exhaling. Let's see, number 3, farmer carry.
Yeah.
It's a good
the
one.
Big boy carry, big kid carries. just because again, it's you use it in everyday life, and it's a demand that we don't put on ourselves as much as I think we could physically. Let's see, number 4, probably just a standard deadlift. Because it's cool to see how much numbers you can pull.
Yeah.
That's just the vanity in me there says I want to see what's the biggest number I can pull.
Big number.
If it doesn't have a 3 in front of it, then you're even trying.
It's not big enough.
And then number 5, kind of a self-esteem, self-confidence exercise for me is calf raises.
Okay.
This man has been working on calf raises hard since he was born.
I have chicken legs. I'm not afraid to admit it, and so I have been trying very hard to stave off the chickenness as much as possible. And so, and it's again, if you think about it, just from a standpoint of walking or being on our feet all day, how much work our calves need to do.
Yeah.
You have to train them hard to get them to find that least effective
To
dose.
elicit some sort of adaptation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so for me, I work on them multiple times a week, and it's crazy how much just working on that affects performance of everything else.
Yeah.
Dude, I do it all the time with my older clients. They're like, "Where are we doing calf raises?" And all of a sudden, they're like, "I walk better."
So you can walk, man.
Oh, what do you know?
Yeah.
Okay, Jesse, you're
I
up,
love
man.
this for me.
We gave you enough time.
So yeah, exactly. I'm like sitting over here like, oh god, I'm about to be judged for this so hard. Okay, so when I first started lifting, I got into powerlifting, right? And I've been doing powerlifting for a while. My last competition was in March of 2022.
It was 2 years ago?
Yeah. I haven't done anything since because I'm old and washed out now. But so
your time is up.
That's not as good.
The golden era is gone.
That's the back of my prime. So I started that way, and I think what my comfort is and my familiarity is to do your typical push-pull legs and kind of simplify it to that. So I'm always squatting, whether that's barbell, whether that's hack, any kind of squat. I'm always deadlifting, which has been a frenemy for me in the past future.
Can always tell because she comes into the clinic and she's just moving funny and can't sit in a chair right. And I'm like, Jessie, did you deadlift? And she's like, yes.
And that's my thing, right? So I have that powerlifting background, and so sometimes I do like to ego lift, and it's not a good thing whatsoever. But you get to these like power exercises, these power movements, and you're like, yes,
I want to go.
Big weight. Let's lift.
Yeah.
But yes, okay, so squat, deadlift. I've been really, really working on my pull-ups lately.
Okay.
My pull-up gang.
Yeah.
It's going okay. I would say for push, a barbell bench.
Okay.
That kind of goes into my ego too. So everybody has their strength and weaknesses, right? It does play off of the structure of your body and what you're used to. Mm-hmm. So I've always been like, that's been my strong lift. And so that's always been like my favorite.
Okay.
And then I'd say probably my 5th one would be some form of lunging.
Ugh, boo.
Yeah. I just worked out with my husband. I think it was like yesterday, and I was like, let's do reverse lunges. And he's like, I'm going to get on a bike until you're done.
You literally.
All right.
Cool.
And then you walk outside and you're like, where's the car? He's like already on his way home.
You can walk there. You can reverse lunge back.
Reverse lunge back home. You like him so much. Interesting. Yeah. I would be like, lunges are one of my least favorite exercises. I think in terms of like, it's a weakness. Yeah. So I don't like doing them because I'm like, it's too hard. My body weight is hard to do. So I'm going to go deadlift instead.
Yeah, right. Your strength.
Yeah.
I imagine when you're lifting too, you put bands on everything, right?
Yes. All different colors though. Remember that.
All different colors.
Yeah.
You get the leg curl machine and like do hip thrusts in it.
That's fucking hilarious, dude. Yeah. Edwin, what about you, man? What are your 5?
My 5. So I like overhead because I'm pretty good at it. So either overhead
so there's
carry.
Your vanity one.
There's my vanity one. Overhead carry or overhead like press barbell. As far as squatting, I love barbell back squats. Just the way it feels on your back. I powerlifted in high school. So, of course, I'm not a deadlift fan. It's always been my weakness.
Because I would say anatomically.
Yeah, anatomically, yeah. I don't have long levers.
Same.
Yeah.
And so I hate it. I would rather sumo deadlift than conventional deadlift.
But you can't do that.
Because it's
not
cheating,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's fake.
Yeah.
Doesn't really count.
I love the suitcase carry.
Yeah,
I like working on my counterbalance.
Yeah.
I'm learning to love overhead pullovers, right? Doing a pullover with a barbell.
Okay. Yeah.
The way it hits the lats.
Yeah.
And then because I am a good presser, I am also going to say barbell bench.
There you go. Yeah.
Because
Yeah, you are a good presser.
I think
Yeah.
we have the same body type.
Yeah.
Must be nice
Well,
to be
they
good
do.
at pressing.
They do say I have a womanly body type.
I said I have a manly body type. We must
have-
be in the middle.
I have wide hips. Look like I'm bearing
hips.
Yeah.
He's so feminine and breathable. Yeah.
Shoot. Yeah. So like, I should.
Are you sure you don't want to, bro? Are you sure?
I need to put my wig on.
There you go.
But yeah, I think those are probably like my top 5.
Yeah.
I do like. I've learned. I took calf raises out for a long time, and then I put it back in and just changed everything. So it's underrated, but it's not my top 5.
Yeah. Fair. So I would say I really
Hip
like
thrusts?
yeah, hip thrusts. I really like booty bands. Man, I think my top one is probably going to be I think deadlift. I really, really do like deadlifting. It's really hard because of my grip strength. So that's where I find that I like suffer the most at it. I think I could deadlift a lot more, but my grip strength has always been like an issue.
Can y'all
Same.
talk to him about training his grip? Because I've told him
Dude, I've
over
done it
and over
8
again.
million times, I swear. Yeah. And at this point in time, the program that I'm doing, I feel like it's actually getting better finally, like after a long time. But yeah, so I'd say deadlift. I do like squatting. I do really like overhead press. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I really like a front loaded carry. So holding a kettlebell up in front, pulling it away, and then like postural control, walking back and forth that way. I feel like I just feel it in my core so much more.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. Then like doing farmer's carries. Farmer's carries, I feel like I have to like actively engage my core to make it happen. But with a front carry, you're just like,
There's
and
no choice.
yeah. And that's why I'm just like, okay, here we go. I like that. I'm trying to think of a fifth one. Man, I just like all the like simple normal shit. I do like bench, but I feel like that's a tough one for me too, where it's like I'm just sort of like mediocre at it. Like I'm just like it's not really like going anywhere for me. I think I like rowing more than I like doing bench. Yeah, like a pendulum row.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speed.
You're such a puller.
yeah. And I guess it's funny too because you can tell like what you like the most, right? Like Edwin's a lot of push, right? Yeah. I think we all had at least like some carry or something like that. But yeah, so those are my favorite, I think. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, guys.
Grip strength.
Grip strength, yeah.
It is my mortal enemy too.
Yeah, and it's like I have this like, so for me it's like an ego thing, and I'm like, I can't get straps yet. I can't use it yet until I can do this much. So that,
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good thing. Sam Miguel and I like worked a lot in 2022 when we were doing the powerlifting competition with my grip because I have the grip of a 4-year-old.
Hey, now that's really strong, bro.
I was like, I don't know about you.
Don't underestimate. Yeah, but we were talking a lot about the different muscles in the hand that aid in gripping and how there's multiple and how you can train multiple.
So, okay, this is just like my question for y'all. So there was a moment where I was really training my grip strength and I was just like, I can't fucking pull this deadlift. Like I know I could, but it's like, as soon as I pull up at all, it's just like, whoop. Yeah. And so I noticed that for whatever reason, I feel like this finger doesn't do shit when I'm deadlifting. Yeah. And so I'm like, how do I get it to like do something? Like, cause otherwise I'm just there and I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking grab it harder this time, and it's like, and it like never happens. But it's like, I've done like whole months of just like, I'm just gonna train grip. Like, and I find that like grip strength, core, and calves are ones that you have to use like constantly all the goddamn time, train every single fucking day. Yeah. And you like can't ever like not do it. It's not like a thing where you're like, well, I'll do it at the end of my workout. Like, no, it's like, and even then I'm just like, it just doesn't fucking come around for me, man. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
There's I believe his name is Alwyn Cosgrove. and he has like an interesting perspective on training things like that.
Okay.
Of doing those first, because if it's that important to you, it should be the first thing you do every workout.
Yeah.
But then when you look at it from how that affects the rest of your workout, well, now you're already training in a fatigued state, so you're learning how to use those muscles while fatigued already. So flipping the system like that can provide some benefit.
Right. Yeah. Because there's a lot of times where I'm like, well, I don't want to train my grip strength until after because I got to do my deadlift first. You know, but this program that I'm doing is funny because it's like, do you guys know who Mark Ripto is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of him. Yeah.
Classic name there.
Yeah, yeah.
Starting strength.
Name,
It's a starting strength, right? So I'm doing the like sequel program, which is called the Texas method.
Okay.
And it's like straight powerlifting. It's like squat, bench, overhead press, and deadlift. And that's like fucking it. And like chin ups if you want to. And so, yeah. And yeah. And you have to have someone carry you to the rack so you don't walk. So, yeah. Because then you lose gains on the way to the rack. Yeah. I'm getting weaker.
Hey, y'all gonna put a conveyor belt in y'all's gym so that way people can just like
yeah.
between the exercises.
As soon as you walk in the door, you just move around. And now the way that it works is so you only deadlift one time a week only, and you're pulling for like 90% for 5, but you do it at the end of your workout. So you've already done like 5 for 5 squats and you're like working at like 80-90%. Then you do like 5 for 5 bench. And then you do the deadlift at the end. And the first day I was like, I'm going to fucking wreck this deadlift. Like just one set, I'm going to rip that shit off the ground. I think I put like 270 on it or something. And I was like, and I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like I was like, that. Who greased the barbell? And and I was like, what the fuck? And so like I had to take the weight way down, and I since built it back up a little bit, but I was like, dude, putting this shit at the end of that, who fucking decided this? I will kill you now. Because it was like, it's so difficult to do at the end. But I find I'm hoping really that after I'm done with it, I want to go through maxing again and see if that like fatigue state training transfers over to like when you're totally ready to just rip a dead, like one time off the ground. So we'll see. I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can. Yeah.
and going back to like, I'm just going to grip the barbell harder, right? Like you're just having your dominant muscles become more dominant in that series versus training like at different types of grips to train different types of muscles in the hand.
Different types of grips. What does that mean? What do you mean?
Like different ways that you can be gripping something to target. So whenever you're gripping, you can't target a muscle. Let me clarify that.
Okay.
And so you're always going to be using some sort of muscles.
Sure.
And a group of them. But training like your flexor digitorum with like a full grip rather than lumbricals, like a tabletop grip, and getting like maybe some sort of weight, whether it's like a kettlebell or anything that you can hold with like
and just doing this position here,
some lumbrical training. So different ways that you can fool, that you can work on like little pincer grips or lumbrical or any of that, and working on training those. And you're gonna have to like change weights significantly because these muscles are different sizes too. But instead of just like going out there and gripping something is beneficial, don't get me wrong. But if you're going to just grip it harder, you're just training your dominant muscles to become more dominant in that nature.
I see.
Why don't you listen to me, bro?
So what you're saying is that I've wasted a lot of time.
I will. Yes.
You know what? I don't like this question anymore.
This is the advice from the strength of a 4-year-old. So just keep that in mind.
I'm turning y'all's mics down. Well, cool, man. Do you have any more questions, Edwin?
Nothing. I think you got it.
Do you guys want to talk about anything else?
I don't know. What else do y'all like? What do y'all like? I'm always down to talk about.
Yeah, I would love to have you guys come back on. This is quite possibly one of the more fun ones that we've done. Yeah, lots of laugh. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah.
Well, welcome. Thanks for having us.
All right, guys. If you love this podcast, please rate and review us. We're on Apple and Spotify. Also on YouTube, you can subscribe down below. Then, if you're looking for a website, it's ssempowered.com. We have free blogs, free guides. So if you're looking for the cost of getting lean, there is a guide on there. Then if you want to purchase a program, you can purchase a program on there as well. Then if you're looking to email us future fitness questions, it's strengthsolutionsempowered@gmail.com. Then if you're looking for social media, it's Strength Solutions on Facebook, strength.solutions.pod on TikTok, Strength Solutions Empowered on Instagram. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Until next time, guys, what?